Yo, what's going on, guys? Another episode of the PokeTalk podcast going down with Nate and Phillip. What's going on?
Hey, what's up? What's up? Not much at all. Got a whole lot going on, it seems like.
Yeah. Who, me?
Well, in general.
Yeah.
I know you got all of your stuff between the last podcast episode. All of your cards.
Yeah, all the Lorcana stuff situated. Got all my 9s in, got all my 10s sold. I got a damaged Captain Hook that I decided just to take a partial refund on and get a reholder service through PSA. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, got that pretty much done with. Got a few other cards I wasn't really expecting to buy, as always. But
with that hook, honestly, with the hook out of curiosity, you kind of showed me an image, but did you think that was done from the actual PSA, like when they loaded it in there, or from the delivery itself?
I think it was... I don't know. I think it was already done, like, when I purchased it. Because I went back and looked at the pictures, and first off, you can't tell anything at all. So... I mean, the only thing I can tell is that one of the lines was like a little frosted more than the others, which unless you knew exactly where the break was, you would not be able to tell. So I messaged a guy. I'm like, hey, I don't know. Like, and very well, it could have been like that and, just got worse. But, I just told him, I didn't know if it happened in shipping or if it was already like that. He acted like, it was done in shipping. So we worked well with each other. But the card itself was like, I don't know, it was odd because it was probably one of the best packaged cards I've ever received.
So it's probably already like that. It was probably already like that, but he was trying to deflect, like he knew about it, but he didn't show it, which is fine.
Possibly.
I mean, I get it. Like from where you showed me, the crack or the damage to the actual slab wasn't jeopardizing the actual card itself. So, I mean, I wouldn't have been too upset, and a part of that's because I actually have had a slab like that, where it was a crack on the very side that came in the mail. And I noticed it a little bit after it came in. I was like, and I started to think about it. I don't think it was from delivery because it looks like the guy or whoever at PSA like encapsulated it, it looks like they might have had a little bit of issues trying to get the two pieces together. And there was just, the plastic was weak there or whatever. And you could just see a hairline crack.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's...
This one was really weird. Like, if you guys have a PSA case, it's the back. Like, on the back, it has those ridges around the side that helps them stack with each other and fit with each other. So that piece, like, there was a top, like, 1/20th of the top of that line on the right side was, like, it was pretty much, like, crushed and broke off. And then... the right side, it was broke off but still attached, so it was really weird and like super fragile, so you could like pull off that little line on the right side. But I left it in there and sent it off to PSA to get a reholder, and they don't grade the cards when they do that. They just look at the card, and if it isn't damaged from the case, they just take it out and put it in a new one. So that's why I went ahead and did that. And if they damage it on their end, they'll pay you like the declared value and send it back to you. So I was like, okay, might as well. Never tried the reholder service, so may as well try it.
Maybe you should gamble and get it regraded. Hey. But I don't know what the actual card is like. If the centering is clearly a 9, then you're not going to be achieving a 10. So
yeah, I can't even remember what it was, but I'll post some pictures on my Instagram though here soon if you guys are wondering about that. I'll have them up maybe Friday, kind of before the podcast for sure. I don't know what day though. I'll show it off. But yeah, it was just really weird.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say I still haven't purchased anything. I've been keeping a pretty low profile in the TCG world. Haven't even stopped by like the local card shop to just grab a few cards just for like out of impulse. They start having a few singles and like, oh, these cards are pretty cool, and it's like, oh, this is really cheap. $1 for a near mint character rare. Okay,
Yeah.
like I find that pretty cool. Even if it's English or Japanese, it's so cheap. It's like, why not just buy it? And sometimes I use that to keep my fix from like splurging on a larger item because it's like you spend $30 and you get like 8 cards all near mint, and they're like awesome artwork cards, and I'm satisfied at the time to not potentially splurge on a larger item or like a $400 item. Like, oh, I gotta have this card. It's like, hold on, you gotta keep the eyes on the prize, Phillip.
Yeah, and
So
it is
that's pretty much where I've
super
been.
tempting because I mean they're super cheap, but
Hmm.
yeah, I know what you mean.
So that's how I get my high fix in. Like some people will go splurge on an ETB or something, which is fine. I'll go to a local card shop and buy some singles and just keep that itch. I don't really have too much of an urge to open. Yet, however, there is a set this year where they'll probably change. Pokemon has a way of doing that, right?
Yeah,
Even if it's like, oh, I swear, no more, no more, no more, and then they get you back in.
yeah, and you're right back at it.
Just when you think you're out. But no, just an update. I know kind of what I've been doing. I have basically finished nearly every Avatar Last Airbender canon piece of content, comics and books. I'm down to one book and three one shots. So I think it was like 4,000 pages in the last like 3 weeks I've read between comics and the actual books itself. So that's kind of where my mind has been. And then not just that, but I've also, DC announced their slate of movies. I know. Okay, all right, but I'm excited. So I also, obviously, people listen to this know that I mentioned like I'm a big collector of Batman comics, but DC in general was Superman as well, and I got a bunch of comics, and I'm getting really behind on it, and I got a bunch of stuff that the next DC arc is based off of, so I'm really excited to get into that next after the Avatar. And you know what? I'm optimistic about the DC slate. Okay, all right. And
Yeah,
but yeah, and to say, I know. Other than that, it's just planning on going to Yeti Gaming to sell my bulk. So we'll see what happens with that.
yeah, we just had a sub come back. Just gave you your cards the other day, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
yeah, got some more stuff to sell, some more things to do.
Well, after him, kind of the last conversation I had, some of the stuff he would buy 100%. And I don't know if I'll bring it with me because I understand he had just used selling some of the stuff I had. I get it. Like I haven't sold one of the RCS cards in a 9, but kind of niche. Well liked, but kind of niche. And he offered me $15, and here I am still 6 weeks later, and I still haven't sold it. Obviously, I'm not selling it for $15. I sold each one or I bought each one for like an average of like $75.
Yeah,
Like I'm obviously going to take a small loss on it, which is fine because I'm trying to put it towards like a grail, right? So that's okay with me. And it's going to take a while for those cars to get back up to what I bought them at. But
yeah,
anyways, it's just, I mean, I am not expecting him to buy most of the slabs I have. Although he might. I think I might just sell it on my own because I'm going to have to pay taxes this year when I sell the Lorcana cards, unless there's somehow I can sell it to like a place like Yeti and get a large amount of cash. But
yeah,
like, I don't mind selling on eBay because I'm expecting I'm going to have to pay taxes anyways this year with
yeah,
the over $600 thing. So it's like, whatever. Like I'm going to sell regardless. So
yeah. So you set on selling your Lurkana at release if there's hype?
Okay. So here's the thing when it comes to that. It really depends on what I can pull the trigger on. So I'd have to wait until tax season before I can probably pull a trigger, which, I'm an early bird when it comes to that. Like, I'm just waiting on a few things, honestly, and I'm good, so I'll know. But I need to know because, long story short, I was 1099 employee, last year. So you have a self-employment tax you got to pay. So even though I currently work as a W-2 employee now, I'm still going to have to pay, and I don't know how much. I have a rough estimate, but like I got to make sure it's that amount, and there isn't something else that I missed, and it's actually going to be more. And then once that happens, I know how much I can spend on a card, and I expect it to be somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've talked about this ad nauseum about, do I go for the Mario? Do I go for the Elsa? What do I do? And I mean, it's just going to be, I'm pulling the trigger on the best deal at the time when I'm ready. That's really is what's probably going to happen. And with my opinion, if the Mario is already like 2,200 ish on eBay, the most it might hit in this next year is 2,500 to 2,800. Like, I don't see it going beyond that this year. Now, the Elsa, even at a 9, I think that can potentially double or triple in price this year. So
yeah, it's got more potential. I think both are safe, but
yeah,
given the release of Lorcana and if it takes off, I mean, the potential is really,
and
really there.
the 9s are so few that, I mean, if you look at the 10s, the last I checked, there was like 150 or something like that with the 10s. And how many of those are going to be kept by collectors? Like, we're thinking maybe 100 might hit market, right? I mean, maybe. So, long story short, the move I do is if, like, there could be something else that comes up too, and all of a sudden I can't get that card. That's very possible. So it's really going to come down to, I think, if I sell, what happens with the card I buy around March or early April. Because if there's something that happens where I can't pull the trigger on a card like that, I'm probably going to be left with selling everything besides the Elsa. Because I do not want to give up that card if it looks like it's going to be very, very successful. That card's going to be out of my price range, that PSA 10. So it'd make more sense to just sell everything else besides the Elsa and sit on that long term.
Yeah.
And if I
go
can get
nines.
it, if I can get a 9 Elsa, then I'll get that, sell everything besides the 9 Elsa. Because we've kind of seen it a little bit with the 20th anniversary Festa, right? Like, we're seeing almost no 9s, and there's almost the same amount of 9s right now, I think, with those two cards. And now when the 9s are showing
that was my problem. Like last week, like I had to grind it out like never before. I mentioned that that was the most grinding I've done in a long time, maybe ever, to like flip cards. And like 4 out of the 5 sales that I made were with people who had the 9, so we just traded. So I know I'm kind of regurgitating the stuff from last week, but it just goes to show, like, people were in the same boat. They don't want to sell their 9 because they're either trying to get a 10, or they don't want to sell their 10 because they want to make sure they get a 9 first. So that's exactly the people that I met, last week and the week before. And it was a struggle, but we got it done. But the only card that I have in my collection right now that's a 10 that, I want to convert to a 9 is that Festa Pikachu. And be a big payday if I could just find someone who's reasonably pricing the 9. But I don't know if I'm even going to find someone with a 9 to do that with. So.
Well, honestly, I'm looking at the Elsa right now. There's 228 graded. I expect that to steadily rise throughout the year, but at the same time, if you haven't gotten it graded by July, you're probably going to miss the boat if you don't have it graded. So that's going to be what's mostly available. Well, we'll say August. If you haven't had it graded by August, then I mean, who knows when people might grade it? They're going to wait. They're going to wait until basically, Elsa hits $10,000 in PSA 10. Like, okay, great. Like, there is a decent amount. Like, the fact that we're not even at a third total graded of these sets, I think, is indicative that there is still a lot of people, collectors potentially, that actually purchase the set at the D23 convention that haven't graded it yet. Because there were several people I recall in the Lorcana Discord, like, I'm not selling, like, and I'm not familiar. This is the first TCG I've ever really bought, and that wasn't just one people. That was like multiple people that were like supposedly actually there. Now you can say that's anecdotal, which is true, but I think that's actually representative of what Ravensburger and Lorcana is trying to do with, like, they're trying to reach that demographic that doesn't usually play it. And so because of that, they're naive on a lot of the norms you'll see in TCGs, especially when it comes to the grading and collecting aspect.
Yeah, and
So,
the hype from it is definitely gaining traction. I mean,
yep.
these groups are getting bigger now that they're starting to show products. I mean, they're really marketing pretty well, and we're still pretty
Seven,
far
6 months out?
away. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've noticed that too. Like the social media interactions, even on Facebook and Instagram, it's starting to hit in the thousands.
And
So
they
I mean,
respond to like everybody on there. Like they're really
yeah,
building it up.
yeah, like they're doing it ground level. Like everything looks great. We'll know about their play style, and that's really once people know the play style, and they'll be smart about what they'll probably do. They'll keep on pushing that home. Like, this is how you play, and they'll like do a breakdown to help teach people as they're making these posts. And by the time it's already going, a lot of people will already know how to play.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, what I end up doing, we'll just we'll see what things are looking like in March, pretty much. So late February, so end of this month to early to mid next month, we'll kind of have a better picture of what's going on. And who knows, maybe I don't like where things are at, and I'll just kind of hold off till summer at the KC Con. That's always something I could do as well.
Yeah. I'm sitting a little cash heavy. You know, I did buy the Mario, but doing all that with the Lorcana cards still gave me cash left over. And that's even buying a couple things I didn't expect. But in that last PSA order, I got back a special delivery Bidoof in a 10 that I'm selling. I already bought the 9. I bought like a Japanese 20th anniversary Charizard as well. You know, it was just a couple $100, but I need to chill, but I'm facing a decision now. Like, initially, I was just wanting to keep the cash for CollectCon, just to go have fun, see if I can sell a couple things, buy a couple things, just see what happens. And I still have some stuff to sell. I've kind of made a decision to not go for cards that are in sets that much. I have a small little stack of PSA cards that I just bought that are set cards in Japanese just because I like the artwork. But I just come to realize there's too many promos and unique stuff that I want that make more sense to me, so I might as well just go for that. Because, you know, I bought the Umbreon V alt art, but it's like, instead of buying that, I could have bought, you know, so much better things. I just like it for the artwork, and it's not doing much for me, aside from looking pretty. So I could maybe convert those into other things. So I like the idea of bringing the cash and that stack to CollectCon, but also been kind of flirting with the idea to grade my first edition base set. So I don't know what will happen yet. I'm going to make that decision probably before the next episode, so I'll let you know. But yeah, I have an entire non-hollow first edition base set that's decent condition, mostly like 6 to 8. But if I grade them, I'm probably just going to YOLO and grade them all for $15. Probably will lose money on like some of them, like the energy cards maybe. But yeah, I kind of want them all together, and I want to collect those in an 8, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it's definitely a pretty good goal to have for sure.
Yeah, and it's always something I'm going to want to do. Like, I for sure want that because that's the only cards that I have that is like a set outside of my binder sets. Because it's first edition, always going to have the first edition, never going to sell those. So I might just YOLO and send them all, sell any 9s, and then maybe sell the ones that are lower than an 8 too, or bring those to CollectCon, and then buy up the 8s while they're cheap. Because the reason I'm thinking that is because I don't think base set first edition is going to get much lower than it is right now. It's pretty much at its low lowest hype ever because Modern's doing so crazy, and we're starting to see the shift of that hype into promo cards once again, and even some older stuff once again. And I think over time it's going to slowly roll back to, that OG stuff. But we'll see what happens. I don't think there's ever going to be a better time to grade them because they're super cheap. There's a $15 special going on right now. Even if they come back and they're $10 cards, like I would happily have paid $15 just to protect it and not have to worry about it. Because
the most they could do is maybe do a $12 special, but only for club members only to get people to become a member. That's the only thing I could see them doing, it's kind of doubtful because they're getting so much sent to them at the $15 tier already that I don't know if there's much incentive to do that unless the only main incentive would be to kill the competition.
Yeah.
Honestly, that'd be the only incentive to do that. We're going to make it even cheaper, but only for club members. So we have less people sending to SGC, CGC, BGS. So, but even then, it's still purely hypothetical, and you might as well pull the trigger on what you do know is happening. So.
Yeah, and with those, it's more about protection and not really the worth, because, like I said, I'm never going to sell those unless, I sell them to get the 8. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm just going to do it and leave it at that. So, we'll see what happens. Another play that came up was there was a Clefable pre-release card in a PSA 8 that came up. For those of you who don't know, the highest grade on that is a 9. There are no 10s. So an 8 is pretty much like PSA 9 pricing scale to other cards. So thought about doing that, but
I'm going to say that's a card you'll probably never see a 10 on because of the white background.
Yeah.
And how it was released. If you find a 10, it's because somebody immediately put it into a card sleeve back in the day.
Yeah. And there's 2 on eBay right now. One of them is Zach Jim at Pokemon's, and he said he'd take $2K for his, but this other one is up there at $1,100, and they actually sent me an offer at $900, and I sent them back a little lower just to see, but then they declined. But yeah, just that alone makes me think man, I should probably scoop this up because Zach isn't willing to go below 2,000. That's a guy who knows what that card's worth, And yeah, it is worth that, I think, but
trying to get dirt cheap then. It's sometimes you just also kind of have to know. It's so I work in a business that deals or where a lot of people kind of accept where there's a little bit of a haggling, even though we don't usually deal with that. But it's always funny seeing some people would you take 500 on an $800 item? It's no, that's not how haggling works. That's not how haggling works.
I kind of offered low because I was man, I really I can buy this one card and that'd be all my stuff, all my money, or I could, grade all of these first editions for pretty much the same price, and it'd be more satisfying grading those. So I kind of sent a super low ball. Just, well, I'm just going to send it, and if they accept it, they accept it. But I didn't really want to buy it unless it was a stupid good price. But yeah, he was wanting to sell it for $900, I guess. So maybe I'll have to take a look at see what I can sell those set cards that I've been hoarding here and there for, because.
Well, I'm going to say, even if you don't want to sell at a KC con or too impatient, I'm going to Petty Game, and not this weekend, but the following weekend. And I know you've expressed interest, and, I've already told you I'm selling kind of some of my bulk. I should probably do a rough estimate because it's 200 cards, and I would be a major asshole if I showed up on a Saturday with 200 cards where he's got to research each one. I just know for how long it took for the cards I brought in last time. It ended up taking an hour. So it's going to be the same thing again. So like I probably need to do an evaluation and take half the cards just because I will feel bad for the guy. And on a Saturday, I won't be the only one trying to get some time in. And it is what it is, I guess. But
Yeah.
I want to buy the 2016. I haven't looked to see if they sold it, but the idea is to put it towards a 2016 World Championship promo from. It has the Kanto starters on it.
Yeah, that'd be a cool pickup. Yeah,
Well, there's no 10 in that one either.
I'll probably be up there. Um, like I said, it still kind of depends on what's going on, but we'll see how it goes. You know, I'll let you know, and
Mm-hmm.
might bring him up there just to see what's going on, but we'll see.
Actually, no, I'm curious. I'm curious if he still has because they had two. Yeah, so for folks that don't know, that card has several variations. It's got like a finalist, best of 16, or best of 32, a staff, and then the main one, which was the one for if you just participated in the event, you were given this card. And it's already for all the cards that are designed like that from the era. It's the most expensive one. Um, like all the other ones are kind of in the same price range. That's the only one that's clearly climbing, and I think it's pretty obvious why. 2016, that was the first time for Pokemon. Has the Kanto starters, and it has San Francisco in the background. So you got all of those elements.
Yeah, it's pretty
Because
good.
that's where Worlds was. Yeah. So I mean, it has everything working for it, and again, there's no 10 in that card. I'm not expecting this to be a 10, but he's got two listed as near mint. So if he has listed as near mint, I'm thinking at least PSA 8. And if I get lucky with a PSA 9, it's like approximately, like there's a huge range, but it's approximately between $600 and $1,200. You know, so
How much does he have
well,
listed for now?
it was 350, and I'm actually trying to get there now, but I hate TCG Player's site. Like I love the functionality, but I hate the the way how you have to enter things sometimes in order to get something to actually pop up. Because in order to get this card to pop up, I got to enter like 8 different okay, I gotta do Pokemon, I gotta do this, gotta do that.
Yeah, yeah, it is a little
So
navigation on there.
yeah, but yeah, I'll let you know if he still has it once I get it to it.
Yeah, but yeah, those are
But
all our plays. I mean, we're kind of going long on the intro here because there's really not much news.
there is nothing.
Which we did kind of have a lot, last time, or
Yeah.
potentials. But yeah, other than that, we'll let you know what our plays are. I'm probably leaning towards grading all those first editions, just to get that over with, and then maybe I'll sell those set cards for KC Con money just to see what's happening. But yeah, it should be fun. So guess we'll
He
head
still has
on.
it,
Does he? Nice.
but he sold one of them. It looks like
Uh,
there was two, but he sold one of them. Yeah. So here's the thing, though. I don't want to buy it if the centering is absolutely shit. Like if it's like clearly it's an 8, but it's a like pristine car, but it's clearly an 8. No, I that was the issue I was gonna have if I was gonna go back up there. Was I was gonna be like, give me the best centering one, and I would take my chances with a grader on anything else if it's listed as near mint. That was my opinion on it.
yeah, and if someone bought one, like maybe they got to look at them
Maybe
and pick the best one.
yes is yes. So we'll see. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. If it's adequate, like I don't, he can't possibly know every single card, the update on it, and like especially when it comes to the. I mean, I under like Vince from Yeti. He's obviously very knowledgeable, but like he has too many cards to keep track of the market for every single one, and that one's super niche. But if you just look at like the pop report, which isn't necessarily indicative of the actual quality of the card and how hard it is to grade, but it's got overall graded. It's a very low pop, and as time goes on, there's a certain burn rate of what can become a 9 or even 8 or what's near mint. Um, So there's going to be a window to capitalize on it, or when nobody's paying attention to it, and that's right now. When everybody's going right, you go left.
Yeah,
Like when everybody's keeping everything ultra modern sealed, you look at singles that you can buy that have better prospects. That's the thing to do.
for sure. But yeah, I guess with that, we'll touch on our small news topic. Like we said, there isn't much. The only thing we were going to mention is the next TCG set after Scarlet and Violet, which came out in Japan. People have been having fun opening that, checking out the new Pokemon. But the set after that is Triple Beat, and it has officially been revealed. They discovered this Pokebeach, by the way. They discovered the trademark back in October, so they kind of knew what was going on already. But yeah, the next set will release on March 10th in Japan. It's going to be Paldea's starter Pokemon, kind of featured on the artwork. And they do have some card images on Pokebeach. Won't really go into too much with that here. But yeah, there is, let's see, what else was I? There is, obviously this is going to become part of our set that's going to be in June. There's probably going to be another Japanese expansion added to this to form the one set. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, the starter Pokemon look great. And yeah, they're just kind of staying on course, releasing some solid artworks. Each of the starters
Art rares
have art rares. Yeah, so they're sticking with it.
It's definitely here to stay. That's pretty clear. Which is these are kind of like the new V's, more or less. So what is it, like a 1 in 4 cards?
Yeah,
Pack.
essentially.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it seems like they shouldn't be because they actually look cool, but
Yeah.
the rarity level and price wise, yeah, they're kind of the new V rarity.
Which is great, honestly. I'd rather pull one of these than a V card.
Yeah.
So, hey, that means you're getting your money. It feels like, as a collector, it feels like you're getting more of your money's worth. I'll just say that.
Yeah, the chase cards aren't the only cool cards now. Like
Exactly.
a lot more. So, yeah.
And it's more fun to open, and so it's more value. We talked about one in one of our early episodes, which is coming up on a year now. Wow. But we talk about like what can they do to keep things interested, and like you mentioned several times how it's basically if you get a hollow, you're disappointed. Well, same with the V card. It's either like a secret rare or miss, essentially. What this allows, it's like they're listening to us, Nathan. I swear. But this is one of the things to where it's better for the collector because it allows you to appreciate what you do open, and it feels like a rare card because of the artwork, and it's fun because of that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like I said, that's pretty much all we were mentioning. Unless you had something else newsworthy.
No, not really. I will say on a lot of the cards that they've shown, I do like a lot of the artwork. Even like the commons, it's pretty good. And I've really grown to appreciate like the EX cards too. It's like the blend that they've made with some of the different eras, like the old era and the first EX era and the second EX era to form this new EX era. At least with the Japanese card, it looks great. It really does.
Yeah, for sure.
But not enough for me to collect, though.
Yeah, I'm going to really step back and, especially with the set stuff, and reevaluate there, see what I want to do. But first things first is grade things I need to get graded. I need to get those first editions. I have a complete hollow set minus the Charizard that I need to get graded too for base first edition. So I have a whole gold star set I need to grade. So that's kind of crazy, but it's going to be pricey. Probably should grade everything pronto, but it is going to be a lot. So
yeah, and you know what I just realized? We haven't even mentioned what this episode's about.
I was thinking that I can maybe put
Like,
something in the beginning, but
I just realized like people are just listening to us ramble on, and we haven't even mentioned what the topic of this episode even is. Like, I'm gonna make a post with Instagram so you kind of have an idea
well, and we'll
before
have it
you
in the
actually listen to
title
this.
too. Like, I
Yeah,
figured
I
it'd
know,
be
but
kind
it's
of easy with the title, but
and yeah, when we make the post, which is going to happen during the Super Bowl, I guess, when nobody's going to be paying attention to it. But no, yeah, we haven't even mentioned it, which is fun. Hey, it's going to be a mystery episode.
so
Ooh.
yeah. If you heard something in the beginning of the episode, that's probably something I added in. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet or not, but I might add in something. So, but yeah, the episode is about Gen 2. We are doing a era episode. We talked about this a few episodes back, maybe like 3 or 4 episodes back. We did our first one. We're going to go through the eras of Pokemon, not necessarily the gens, but the eras of the TCG. So, Gen 1, I think we pretty much did base through the gym sets. And Neo, we're only doing the first, I guess pretty much there's only 4 Neo sets. Technically, there's the e-reader, e-series sets, but
Mm-hmm.
to me, like stuff like that, when the cards change that much and the rarities and the chase cards change that much, like I feel like that is almost a new era. And the e-reader, e-series, crystal era are pretty much like able to be talked about on their own. So that's kind of how we're breaking it up. Not necessarily by gen, not necessarily by rarity type, but just kind of where it seems fit. So yeah, this is going
Yeah,
to be covering the 4 Neo sets and maybe a little bit of Southern Islands, but we'll see where we get on that one.
I understand because most of the cards in the Neo era, I mean, they're mostly Gen 2. I mean, not exclusively, but it's predominantly Gen 2. Whereas the e-reader set is a nice blend of both gens.
Yeah.
So like in addition to like the designs that you mentioned, there's also a little bit different in terms of the art focus with each set. So, and I have my Neo binder out and ready right now. So as we go through
Nice.
each set, I can admire them as we talk about them. So hey, here we go.
Yeah, and I don't really figure us going into crazy detail with this episode. Really, they're kind of basic. Of course, you get the shiny cards, which we'll talk about in the last 2 sets, but these first 2 sets, they're pretty much like the first era that we talked about. Kind of basic, showing off new Pokemon, and so there's really not too much craziness aside from the first editions and the shining cards, which we'll get to. So yeah, when you think of Neo Genesis, which is the first set on our list, what first comes to mind with that?
Well, what first comes to mind? I probably think of the Lugia in terms of from that set. Now, in this set, well, in this gen, this is when we get several more types with the dark and metal types. Basically, the psychic types were too OP in the first era of Pokemon games, way too OP. Even Ghost was pretty OP. Like Hypnosis, Dream Eater, whoo! That thing would just wreck everything. So that's where the darkness comes in, or where the dark type comes in, like your T-Tar or your Umbreon. Even though, yeah, I know Umbreon isn't like the strongest attack, but still, it's a dark type. And those additions are some of the first things I think of. And also, Neo Genesis, for me, is a little bit of a favorite because it's where we first see Komiya's artwork. He's got a few cards in this set. They're mostly trainer cards. He's got one Pokemon card, which is Slowpoke. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but even to this day, they still give him Slowpoke and Slowking and Slowbro. It's kind of amusing. Like his first, I mean, he has a artware now, but And he's going to have Hypno, which is another one he has done a lot as well. But for some reason, they give him those Pokemon. I don't know what it is,
Like, here, try to make
but
him look cool.
yeah, it's like, I mean, I love his. I mean, we'll get to it in Neo Destiny, but I like a lot of his Slowpoke designs. And this one actually, Neo Genesis also features a banned card. Well, there was a card that was banned and it had to be rechanged. That was the Moo Moo Milk. Um, Essentially, the Japanese version had a Century sucking on an udder. That
Yeah, I
was
remember that.
that was too risque in circa 2001 America. I guess it's still risque in this country. Or it's 2000, late 2000. But yeah,
Yeah, what are they trying
is
to
when it
teach our
came out.
kids?
Oh no! But yeah, so that one, yeah, he's got a lot of good trainer cards. I'm a big fan of his. Obviously, he's probably my favorite artist, and that's some of the things that stick out when you come with Neo Genesis to me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some good ones. Obviously, Lugia really sticks out for me as well, as being like the big chase.
Hmm.
Um, T17 Typhlosion sticks
Hmm.
out. I remember
Yep.
all the hype with that and how hard that was to grade. And since then, it's gotten some more copies, but it was definitely newsworthy. The other cards don't really get much love. For alligator cards, Meganium cards are okay. The Pichu's pretty cool. It gets some love. But yeah, Lugia and then T17, those are for sure the big dogs. Um, Try and think. Other than that, I mean, we have our first Hollow Energy, the Steel Energy, trying to
Yeah,
show that some love. But
but this is where you kind of start to see it towards the end of Gen 1. Like we mentioned how like the gym sets, you saw a notable I guess increase or not increase, better artwork basically. And that's something that you really begin to see towards the end of the Gen 1 era. And they really build on that. Like what I love is it's very subtle, but like for example in the Aircross uh Foil, he's fighting a pincer.
yeah,
And it's something where like those two like hate each other, and it's just certain subtleties like that you didn't really see during the earlier Gen 1 artwork that it makes this era stick out just a little bit. And just like with the foiling itself is like peak Watsy in my opinion.
I feel like they kind of did half and half. Like they didn't go as crazy as the
Hmm.
gym sets with the artwork, but they almost went back to their base set roots with how basic some of these artworks are. But you can tell, like, they tried to change it up as well. Like, just look at the starters, for instance. They have, like, a very basic looking, and then, like, Meganium is just, like, you can see the whole body in the picture, not really much going
Hmm.
on. But then it has an artwork where it's, like, yelling, and then there's trees in the background, so, like, a little more artistic. So it's kind of got the best of both worlds. Some hollows are really plain. Some hollows are really, you can tell they kind of spice them up a little bit, but not as much as the gym sets. But for the non-hollow cards, they pretty much continued the same style. Like they really added a lot more character. So it's kind of hard to say what they were thinking there. Maybe they wanted to get the base set feel, and maybe they thought gym sets weren't as as good as most people thought or something. Who knows? But yep, pretty cool to see. It's a nice mix of both worlds. Got that OG Sugimori artwork style, and
Hmm.
yeah, I love them.
And then you have Sneasel, just kind of like a blast from the past that was OP, and the play from this set is that the Fury swipes, you can just keep on doing it.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's something else that was kind of notable from this set. Um, Kind of going through what else?
There's really not much. I mean, there was a lot available. Um, this is where pretty much the last set that most
Yeah.
people remember, and the last set that was like stupidly available. After this, the next Neo sets, and then slowly going into the E series, pretty much every set going up to Deoxys was like a slow decline in the
Yeah.
print. And so most people that collected, I feel like they pretty much knew Neo Genesis, and a lot of people collected because it was like the new and exciting thing. But this is
Hmm.
where people like really started to drop off. So
Yeah, my last set I think was Discovery. That was the last one I really opened, and I specifically remember one of the last packs I bought back in the day. I pulled in a Zoomeril, and it was one of the Meganiums, and those were the last two I pulled from that set. And then I pulled, what was it? Well, I'll have to take a look at it. But I pulled something from Neo Discovery as well, and I didn't know at the time, but those would end up being like the last packs I ended up buying for a long time.
yeah, I remember like in my classroom back in the day seeing shining cards. So I know I was around for Destiny, but I was losing, like, I wasn't having much interest, but I remember seeing those around. So I know I went at least until Destiny, but I don't remember the E series at all. So that was my hard stop. But
Well,
yeah.
this is also around the when Yu-Gi-Oh, like 2001, I think is when Yu-Gi-Oh was starting to get big in America, and I know that's when I shifted to Yu-Gi-Oh. And I think a lot of people my age did the same thing.
Hmm. Yep, Yu-Gi-Oh was starting to take over and wasn't as cool to like
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Pokemon anymore.
But it was more fun to play though. That's why I actually played Yu-Gi-Oh. I like made half attempts to play Pokemon, but it was always more of a
Yeah,
collecting aspect to me.
that's kind of how it was with me too. Like, yeah, I never really got into playing Pokemon. Like, I very faintly maybe remember trying to play with my cousin, but yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh, it was almost all about playing. Like, you didn't really care to collect. Like, you just kind
Mm.
of played Yu-Gi-Oh because that's all you saw on the show.
And
But
this era reminds me, I'm still very, very butthurt about getting my Yu-Gi-Oh cards confiscated, knowing that they would get stolen. They did. And they did. I still remember that vividly. I was furious. I got in trouble with the things I said to the student teacher. I'll just say that I was 12 years old and I was no filter, just kind of going off. So yeah, I mean, I got some secret rares. I always had luck pulling cards, and there were secret rares in that stash. I mean, I was a little upset.
yeah, I bet.
But,
Yep. Well, for the next set, we go into Neo Discovery. This is
ooh.
where things kind of get interesting. So,
Mm-hmm.
Neo Genesis may be kind of boring for some folks, but Neo Discovery definitely spices things up. They do have some basic looking hollows, but more of the artistic side, and they kind of branch out from the basic look again. Um, maybe they were basic on Neo Genesis because it was, they didn't want to mess things up. It was a brand new Pokemon set, but you can tell they quickly went back to the more artistic feel, and it brought us the glory that is the next Neo set and the glory that is Umbreon and Espeon. Those two cards are what
Mm-hmm.
I think of when I think of the set. Probably the most desirable, especially nowadays, most desirable Neo card for some people is this Umbreon in this set. First edition goes
Mm-hmm.
for thousands in a 10. It is quite
It's
the
like
card.
10,000, wasn't it? I
I
forget
don't.
what the last one sold for, but it was pretty. I mean, well, okay. I remember at one point it was hitting those numbers. I doubt it's at that point now.
I think that was during hype, but it's
Yeah,
still multiple thousand. Like I think there was one ending that I saw someone posting about on Instagram or something. But let me see if I can find that real quick. But yeah, insanely cool artwork. A lot of people's chase card for the set, but it might take me a while to find it actually. Let me
yeah.
see.
So
There's
I was to
one
say
buy it
this
now
is,
for 12,000, but
but
there was one that was auction that was ending, and it was at multiple thousands already, but can't remember what exactly it was at. But oh well, it's a
yeah,
lot, and
yeah.
yeah, people love that card. I had a 9 of the unlimited version. I almost kept it, but the hype was still going on, so I ended up selling it. And it was a good move. You know, it came down a little bit more, but I think they're kind of on the rise again. So we'll see how it goes. Probably
Yeah,
won't buy it since it's a set card, but it's a beauty. If you haven't seen like a high grade of that card, it is just insane with the moon in the background. When I hear Moonbreon, that's the one I think of. I don't think about the Evolving Skies. 'Cause that's the one true
so
Moonbreon.
well, that's kind of debatable, but I still like the ultra modern Moonbreon as well. We can say Moonbreon Senior, Moonbreon Junior, because one came first, and just kind of go from there. Because I mean, I obviously enjoy this card. I do. Like, I mean, I have it in my set. I mean, it's definitely a great card. Fantastic. It's the first artwork of Umbreon. I mean, there is a lot of things going for it that give it a lot of solid distinction and notoriety within the hobby. And, it is well deserved. But I actually, while I love that card, we both know that Umbreon is, one of our top 5 favorites. But I would honestly say what I prefer in this set is, wait for it, you can probably guess which one it is. uh,
T-Tar?
no, actually, it is the Politoed.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, so the Politoed to me always looks like Will You Wish upon a Star is kind of what it looks like to me, right? Doesn't he look like
Yeah,
he's kind of doing that? And he's
he's
like,
another one with the sun in the background, like almost the same spot as the Moonbreon. Just looks really nice back there.
so yeah, with the foil you can't really see it, but it's like kind of supposed to be like sunset, just a little bit. That is a Kamiya artwork, obviously. I actually have that one in a first edition PSA 9. Um, and it is a card that's core collection that I will probably never sell unless it's going for a 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a pretty good one. Yeah, there's lots
Yeah,
of other artworks like Umbreon and Espeon obviously get the
uh-huh.
attention, but Yanma is also one that's pretty hard to grade with the white background. It goes for quite a bit. Politoed's great. Houndour is great. There's a Houndour and Houndoom, but Houndour is pretty cool, like just chilling in the grass. And yeah, they got some solid artwork. All of the hollows in this set pretty much have a non-hollow variant, but with the Umbreon and Espeon, and I think a couple others maybe, now that I look, maybe not. Maybe it's just Umbreon and Espeon. They changed the artwork for some reason from the hollow to the non-hollow. So that was an interesting decision. Every other hollow in the set has the exact same artwork in non-hollow, but those two have completely different. So
Those actually haven't dipped terribly from what I bought mine at. It was like 300 or something like that. I
yeah,
mean, the auctions are like 200, like 170, but the buy it now they're still like 250, 260. So that actually hasn't gone down as much as I thought, which I think is indicative of two things. One, WotC will be more steady in general, like vintage, it seems like. And two, because obviously it's a great artwork, and there's a lot of Komiya collectors, and it's for first edition. So again, it just has all these factors going for it. And you know what, Polytoad, he's kind of like you mentioned, he's unappreciated. Or he's not unappreciated, but he's underappreciated.
Yeah, now that things have cooled off, it's like that. Like, I think we're going to be steady growth. That's why I really want to grade those first editions. Like, it's a great time to grade these cards if you have them in decent grades. It's a great time to buy them raw. We've pretty much seen the floor of the market in December. And, unlike modern, where people get excited and they're kind of overinflated and there's always people
Mm-hmm.
opening more, like, these are kind of sliding under the radar and there's not really many more of these being opened. So they're pretty
And
much at their floors, I think, for the rest of time. I don't think we're going to be seeing a better time to buy unless like the interest in Pokemon just tanks. But if everything stays on course how it has been, given that we're in a recession also, like I think WotC cards in general might be at their all-time lows for many years to come, like right now. So take with that what you will. I'm just a random opinion, but yeah, these cards are the same. It's a great time to buy these. You might not find good condition ones very easily, but they're still out there. Just got to put in the work and avoid the clutter that is modern hype, and
yeah.
you'll find them. If you like modern, go for it. It's doing really well. You can't deny that. It gains interest and people are excited for the next new thing, and that's what sells well. So don't have to
The thing
listen to
that
us, but
I mean, obviously, like we love modern. We both collect ultra modern. I collect singles. I don't collect the sets, but like I buy ultra modern a lot in terms of the singles. Like when they're dirt cheap, like I mentioned, I'll go to this local store and I'll just, oh, you got some singles? Okay, I'll just go ahead and buy this, and I'll put it into my ultra modern binder, and I'll just go ahead and add to it. It's just um, we mentioned before, but being in your own echo chamber and social media bubble there skews your perspective, and a lot of times people don't realize this because they're so far in they can't look out. So it's just like sometimes you just kind of have to take a set outside yourself to see everything around yourself. So just when you come to that, it's just you got to be conscientious of. You always got to ask yourself when you're trying to think of an outside perspective, is it just me that sees it like this? Is there a consensus from other people that see it like this? Or am I in a echo chamber? Those are just kind of things you sometimes have to consider. And I think sometimes people, because it shapes an opinion, it really does. When everybody tells you you're right, it becomes very difficult to make somebody realize or, question themselves. Like you're not wrong necessarily, but like just the aspect with when trying to argue, it's not about proving who is wrong, who is right. It's to invoke critical thinking. And if you are able to have a conversation with ultramodern and not start insulting somebody, like on social media, like I've experienced a lot, then you're already doing a lot better than most people. Because these are just the dangers we have nowadays in this information age. Like just be careful, people. Like be aware of where you're at. Is the only thing I can really give as advice.
yep. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I kind of started buying the modern random singles, so that's what I was just talking about at the beginning of this, that I potentially might have a stack of cards that's kind of modern that I've just been picking up here and there because I like them, but I'm literally just blindly picking them up like, oh, that's cool. It's only $100. I'll buy it, and then all of a sudden I have $1,000 worth of a stack of cards that don't even fit my initial goals. But that kind of makes it fun for me, picking up cards here and there. It's almost like stowing money away and then like selling them later to buy something else. You're always buying, you're always selling, you're always moving money around. It's kind of fun for me, even though
And
I know I could probably buy something better, but that is what I'm doing eventually.
yeah, even with the ultra modern buying a lot of these cards at their all time low, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of it that's been opened. But because the art's so great, especially if you go after cards for Pokemon a lot of people like, people keep on buying those cards for years to come. It's just like the Wasi Unlimited Hollows, like especially with base set and other sets from that era. People still buy those Unlimited Hollows. I just sold, for example, a near mint. This was BGS. So a lot of people don't enjoy BGS as much. Electrode. It was unlimited for $40.
Yep.
What I'm saying is those are very common, and it's a BGS night. So a lot of people go after BGS in general. If it was a PSA, I probably could have got $50 for it. And this is an unlimited item. All right. So I'm not saying to wait 20 years, but if you keep in mind with certain artworks are more desired, certain Pokemon are more desired than others, it stands to believe that even if you buy like a character rare at $1, it's a lot easier for a card to go from $1 to $5.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those character rares in near mint will get to that point in a few years. I really do. It might take like 5 years, but I see that happening.
Yeah, it's like the perfect thing to collect, like if you're just super casual. There's a lot of cool ones out there. They're super cheap, and the likelihood that, they go up to $2, 100% growth,
Yep.
just kind of weird. It's pretty likely.
Yep.
Granted, you're only making $1, but...
Well, still, but if you, have 100 of those type of cards, obviously it's more risk at that point. But even if it gets to $3, you're going to get at least 2. So you doubled your money in potentially just a couple years. And honestly, if you're talking about, I'm not saying you should use that as an investment strategy, but if you're talking about an ROI, I mean, you're getting better return on your investment than for most sealed products, which is something that we've really gunned home last time. And that's, in my opinion, there's less risk involved if you're wanting to be involved in the hobby. Really, like, oh, I got all these cool art rares, but you didn't spend an arm and a leg,
Yeah.
and then you can just kind of keep on going up, keep on trading up, keep on trading up. By doing that, that's more effective and more safer than spending $1,800 on a case of Evolving Skies. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, you could spend $1,800 on a case of Evolving Skies and get like 6 really big cards and then just a ton of
A
garbage.
bulk. Mm-hmm.
Or you can buy like 1,700 art rares, fill like 4 or 5 binders worth of slots with cool artworks, and talk about jumpstarting a collection. Like, if there's anybody who's wanting to start a Pokemon collection and you literally don't care about anything, like you don't care about collecting this whole set or every alternate art, like look at art rares, look at, the common dollar art rares that you like and start just buying those. Like you said, you eventually get a little collection going. Sometimes you'll sell the whole binder to buy something big. Sometimes you'll have multiple binders going, but yeah, I think we covered this pretty much in the last couple episodes a little bit. Like, that's just great value, and the likelihood that those are going to go down, like to be worth less than $1 what they're at now, like, is very unlikely, because I mean, they're cool cards. Even no matter how common they are, you could get $1 for it easy. So yeah, pretty good there. If you can, though, obviously those are printed quite a lot, but there's better moves. But as far as the general person, just super casual, don't care, like that's a great little way to start building a little binder that is A, cheap, and B, really cool looking. So
because I just think it's safer to look at cards that are cheaper when you're first entering the hobby to build this portfolio or collection and sell what you want in 5 to 6 years. And I think it's just a general easier and less risk involved, and you'd have more fun if you did it that way. Because if you're going after like a case, you obviously have a sole intention of quote unquote investing. And I'm not trying to insult those that have that opinion, but merely to invoke critical thinking. Is it easier to have an item go from $1 to $5 or a booster box go from 3 to 500? When we know that Evolutions is only like 600, and the Hidden Fate TTVs after a mass reprint is going for less than 150. It's just I feel like I know we're kind of beating a dead horse, but I just think keeping that in mind when you're making these plays for Ultra Modern, I think it's something that's very, very important because I think, like, again, there's less risk and it's more fun, honestly.
Yeah.
And because these cars are so well desired and they should be for quite some time, you're better. It's going to be easier to sell that, and you can guess what? You can sell that to an LGS because they'll buy that shit up in a heartbeat. And now you also have the factor like, hey, in 8 years, what are people going to be going after? You know what? It's going to be these character rares from this era. It's going to be the alt art rares from this era. That's what I would keep in mind. And obviously, the Pokemon matters. Will they be buying your case of Evolving Skies? Hell no. They won't be. You'll have to sell that on your own and take all the risk involved with it. And guess what? eBay doesn't have a authenticity for that yet. So you're on your own if somebody tries to screw you out of your item, or say it tore and shipping. So because of that, you're going to have to issue partial refund. These are all risk involved with this mentality that people
You're shipping it overseas, and customs decides to check your box and just rips it open.
Yeah, I actually saw. Okay, I saw this. I don't know how legit it was, but somebody was shipping a. It was a auto-graded, sealed, yellow version Pokemon Game Boy Color with the Pikachu.
I think I saw that too.
They tore it open in customs. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, I've seen worse. Like, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but over the years there have been some scary things, like WotC booster boxes ripped open just to check what's inside. You know, there's been some things. So yeah, that's something people don't really think about. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So a lot of people doing that, they'll bring it in a carry-on, and then if they insist on doing something, it's like, well, I'm just not gonna fly. Because yeah. But anyway, Umbreon Espeon are pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we can go on to the next set, which is, that was Neo Discovery. The next set is Neo Rev.
We get our secret rares. We get a little more secret rares in this set.
Yep, this is where it starts. We get, no doubt, the two chase cards are the secret rare Shining cards. Shining Gyarados and Shining Magikarp. So, amazing artwork, especially the Gyarados popping out of the lake, scaring the dude on the raft. Overall, though, I don't really care for the artwork of this set more so than the other three. Like, I think this is like the most lacking as far as artwork goes, with exception to like the Houndoom maybe. I do like the Celebi, and then obviously the Gyarados, but I don't know.
I like the Lugia and Ho-Oh, the rare versions. Because this is another one where it's the same scene.
Yeah, and Skarmory, I think's in there too, like in the scene. You can see his wing in the background, I think. There's a couple.
Well, I know you see Ho-Ohs. You see Ho-Oh in the background for Lugia.
Yeah.
Like that's, with Over the Moon. And then obviously you have the dogs, the legendary dog hollows. Those are some of the best cards in this set, I feel like.
I do like the legendary dogs, I guess. I do like, 25% of the artwork. I guess most of the thing where it's lacking for me is the uncommons and commons, like non-hollows.
Yeah, I could see that.
A lot of people, though, like, this is their favorite Neo set, I feel like. But it just, I can tell the artwork shifts. There's more personality, but it just doesn't do it for me on some of them. But I do like the art style though, like how they changed it up and it's unique in that way. But yeah, so kind of more the same. I mean, you're talking pretty similar price ranges for these first three sets. The next one that changes a little bit, I think, but
Well,
overall, do what?
on a say Neo Revelation, I haven't looked since December, but Neo Revelation was the first uptick. And I don't know if you noticed this. I know we kind of discussed it at first, but we didn't see when we went to the KC Con. All these vendors had all these binders available. We saw a decent amount of Neo Discovery. We saw a whole lot of Neo Genesis, but there wasn't a whole lot of Neo Rev to be bought from a lot of these vendors. And this is the first set that really begins increasing in price, in part because of the shinings, but not exclusively because of it. Some of the hollows in your mint are like $100 or so. It just kind of varies on which one. But yeah, you can get it. It's pretty affordable if you don't go that route, especially if you go unlimited. Some of the ones that are a little more pricey, as you can imagine, are the lit dogs. A lot of the dogs, even unlimited in your mint, are a little bit more pricey than you might think. But a lot of it is because they are desired. Let's see off the top. Let's just kind of see on the TCG player. Yeah, Troll and Told has one for like $120.
Yeah, they're pretty pricey still for sure.
And that's near mint. That's near mint English, like $100. Like, and then the Houndoom. That's one of the best artworks in the entire set. Like the blood-stained sky. That's kind of what I think whenever I think of that.
Yeah, it is a pretty sick one. I feel like the prices might be the same. Like, because you know the chase cards in the other two sets are still $100 too. Maybe not Genesis because it's like a little more common, but
Lugia is still that price. You can get it cheaper though if you wanted to get like a damage or like a heavy plate. You can get it cheaper, but yeah.
yeah, this one and Discovery are pretty similar, but you definitely start seeing a lot less, like you said. But yeah, pretty cool cards though.
One. Yeah, the Shining. I was glad to get the Shining off the list. Still don't have the Shining Gyarados, unfortunately. That one, God, that one's just so expensive. Even in, it's like I can't have the card be like heavily played. I can't do that. Like it's got to be a decent condition card, and I mean, I'd have to revisit the prices, but even like moderately lightly played and unlimited is still a few $100s.
I haven't kept track of those cards like hardly at all because I've had them for so long. Like it's been ridiculous. I really probably should go look and see how much they are. I know my shining cards are pretty good condition. Like I have a lot of good condition stuff in my binders that haven't been looked at since like I don't know, pre 2016.
Let's say lightly played unlimited $300.
Huh.
On TCG Player. Yeti Gaming has a heavy play first edition for $500.
See, like I should probably go through those binders because, like, I want those binders to be like as binders for a long time, where like I'll never grade them, just to flip through and look. And there are plenty of cards that are way too nice condition not to be graded in there. So I should probably like buy a more played version and grade some of those and either keep or sell some of those.
I mean, there's some cheaper, lightly played ones, but they don't have images. Or this one does, but I mean, it's still 300, zero sales, you know? So it's a risk. I mean, you can find those type of deals cheaper, but I mean, this is one of those cards. I mean, this is one of the best artwork cards in the WotC era, in my opinion. You have one of your first Shining, or is it the first one? That's actually a good question.
Yeah, I think it is the first one. It's numbered before Magikarp.
Yeah, so, and then obviously it was the first actual Shining with the games, right? Like you had to use your was it your super rod out there in the lake, or no, not lake, but the bay, and you had to keep on like just fishing and fishing before you can get it. If I'm not mistaken, that's how you got Missing No as well. If I'm not mistaken.
Missing No was a glitch in Cinnabar Island. You had to like surf up and down the coast. And I think
I
Red
thought you.
Red Gyarados was like you'd have to surf out to him to encounter him. I think.
I thought it was a fish thing. God, it's been so long since I played that era of Pokemon. I haven't played in a long time. But yeah,
Either
I'll have
way,
to
though, yeah,
trust.
like super iconic. The first shiny in the games and
Mm-hmm.
TCG, and yeah, it's
It's
pretty
the whole
awesome.
artwork. Like, it's in the middle of a storm. It looks like Gyarados is about to do a dragon rage on this guy and in the boat. Just very great artwork. Absolutely.
Tied to the games like 1-to-1. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, couldn't have done it better. I do really like that card. It is one of the best. We'll give it that. Probably, I mean, I would say out of the other shiny cards, like, which there's quite a bit more shinings in the next set, which we're about to talk
Yeah.
about. But none of the artworks are really as good as that Gyarados. They really put in the detail on that Gyarados. But
The Magikarp's pretty good, but yeah, the next era, the next one, I think there's only like two of them that really stand out to me with the Neo Destiny Shinings, which we'll get to when we get to it. But the Shiny Magikarp and Shiny Gyarados both stick out, and it's really what gives the distinction for the Neo Rev are these two cards.
mm-hmm.
And it's really what brings up Neo Rev to a higher tier when it comes to collecting the set, especially if you're trying to do decent quality.
Yeah, and there was a lot less of them. It seems like, like we
Mm,
said, just seems like if you find Neo cards, it's always Genesis and Discovery, mostly Genesis. But yeah, with that though, we move into Neo Destiny, which is the ultimate ender of Neo. And
mm,
yeah, to me, artwork went up another notch. Extremely unique. They had light Pokemon as well as dark
dark,
Pokemon.
yep.
Yeah, the artwork on here, like, it still got Neo Reb vibes, but for some reason, maybe because I've seen these so much less back then, these just really get me more excited. And yeah, you have some amazing hollows. Espeon gets another hollow as a dark Espeon.
Hmm.
You
The
get a
Light Arcanine and Dark Gengar.
Yeah, you get light Dragonite, which is pretty cool too. Light Togetic. You
Hmm.
get a lot of really cool hollows, but as far as the set goes, I mean, it's pretty similar to Neo Rev. Like, as far as the amount you see available and price wise, these two are a little bit above Neo Genesis and Discovery for sure. But what sets Neo Destiny even farther beyond and even more pricey than Neo Rev is the Shining cards for sure.
Hmm.
So we got two in the last set, which were Magikarp and Gyarados, and this one you
Has
get
8.
8 Shining cards. So pretty crazy lineup here too.
Hmm.
You got Celebi, Charizard, of course, Kabutops, Mewtwo, a random Noctowl, Raichu, Steelix, and of course Titar.
I think Cheetar and the Charizard are the two best artworks of all of those.
Yeah, Titar is almost like glowing and like darkened, like he's
Hmm.
charging up like a solar beam or something. Charizard just kind of flying through a canyon. Really weird angle. I like the card because it's pretty well centered and symmetrical, but it was always a weird angle to me. He's kind of flying away. It's like if he flew over you and you're looking at his back. It's just kind of a weird angle, but nevertheless, it's an awesome looking card. Very pricey in a good condition,
Yep.
and
Yep. Can't find one. Let's see. What's just $600 one on eBay? It's probably damaged. I think that was the going rate for some of the damaged ones was like $600.
yeah, all these shining cards too, they have like texture over the Pokemon, and
Yeah,
yeah,
$600 on this one.
they just did it really well. But yeah, I'd say Neo Destiny, obviously the most expensive one out of all of them. It's got the most shinings and all that. Well deserved there, but aside from the shinings, I mean, the biggest plays. Let me look here. Obviously, the Mewtwo, T-Tar, and Charizard are probably the bigger shinings. Raichu seems to get a lot of love. But yeah, overall, pretty much all the hollows in this set run pretty similar in price because they're pretty hard to find. They're all probably $50 to $100.
Yeah, this is a little bit older, but I had a price sheet, the missing binder guards. Let's see if I have the date for Neo Destiny. This was...
Some of them are probably like 100, 150 in good condition, but...
So this was mid-November, yeah. So I was looking at like, moderately played on a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them are more cheaper than you would think. So this is like 2 months old, so I should probably re-upgrade it. But I mean, like Ampharos, most of them, even Dark Espeon was only like 70-ish. The Light Arcanine, as you can imagine, was one of the most expensive ones.
Yeah.
The Dark T-Tar and the Light Dragonite, those are probably the most, and the Dark Gengar, those were like the most expensive ones from what I could see. So those are all around like $100. But what really gets this set expensive is that, like you said, the shinings. That's what sends it into a whole other level. Like, you can probably get all of them, all the shinings, for less than 1,000 or so if you went damage. And the list I had following that trend was like $1,700. It's like 100 for Shining Selby, 600 for Shining Zard, 140 for Shining Kabutops, 180 for Shining T-Tar. This, and I bet a lot of this has probably gone up like 10%. 145 for Shining Raichu. Like, these weren't near mint cards. A lot of them were damaged. I think only 2 of them were like moderately played, and one of them was a Shining Mewtwo at 250. But yeah, you're spending probably, if you went all damage, you can probably get it for around 1,200. All of these.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can probably find decent, but like, I don't want that unless it's like a crease on the corner. Trying to find a card that is decent for a binder card is really hard to do.
Yeah, I actually looked at my Shining T-Tar not long ago. Like I said, it's been quite a while since I really went through my whole binder, but for some reason I checked my Shining cards in case I ever graded those. And my T-Tar actually has an indentation on the back. So
that's an instant 4. Probably.
Yeah, that would be the perfect thing for me, just to not grade leaving the binder. But yeah, it is hard to find those where they look really clean, but they have a random indentation that automatically knock it down.
Yeah, my Umbreon that I bought from, was it Neo Discovery, is like that. Because I looked at it, I was like, oh, this almost looks near mint. And then you look at it closer, because I got it from a friend that had his whole collection in a 3-ring binder. You can see, like, it's by the print towards like the bottom right kind of part of the card. There's this like indentation that was from the 3-ring binder. That's technically damaged. So that's how I had to list it, and I ended up at like, you know what? Because since it decreases so much price, I just bought it myself for like $60. Yeah. And honestly, for a binder card that looks clean, I like, one of the biggest issues sometimes, like, not going like for a damaged or like a heavily played condition is the luster of the hollow. Like, you lose it with the worst condition that you get oftentimes. Mm-hmm. So to be able to maintain that luster and allure of the hollow of that card is really great to be able to appreciate. You can't appreciate it as well if it looks like it's been scratched to shit and it's just like all, you can't, it's all scratches, and like it takes away from the art of the card.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's hard to make that decision, but yeah, don't know of like what I'll do with mine, but I'd for sure have some that need to be graded. I know that.
Yeah. Well, if things, we'll see what I end up going for collection wise when I sell Lorcanum. But we've kind of come full circle now with talking about Neo Destiny. And first, before I kind of do that, I just wanted to say a few things with this artwork. Is not only do we finish the unknowns that they've had throughout every set in Neo, this is the first set that kind of gives a glimpse of the next era of TCG, and that was the e-reader sets. This is one of the ones where most of the cards, commons, uncommons, trainer cards, everything is at least decent artwork, and sometimes a lot of them are very unique. And this is one of the few sets that was able to accomplish this before we enter one of the best era of TCG ever in the e-reader sets.
Yeah, you can definitely see the shift. This is like the gym sets of the first era episode that we did. You can see a shift in like what they're wanting to do and which direction they're wanting to go.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you got a lot of not just amazing artworks, but expressive. Like you have like the Pokemon themselves are getting more expressions rather than just like a cool pose and stuff like that. You got like a mischievous looking Gengar or a very angry Ampharos, T-Tar, Dark Typhlosion. You have a very peaceful looking Dragonite, or Dragonair rather.
You have one of the most menacing cards ever with Dark Slowking. That's a Neo artwork, and one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite artworks of his. The Dark Amistar's pretty good too, but God, that Dark Slowking is just menacing. He looks like some sort of like villain, like Bond villain, or like cartoon villain.
Yeah.
And you have like the lightning in the background, and just everything just brings it home together. That one I actually had to buy first edition for my Komiya collection. And you know what? We almost forgot to say this is the final first edition set.
Yeah, that I didn't even think about that, but it is important to note this is where first edition died. So sad. There's some versions of it in the Japanese side that continues, but for the English, that famous WotC first edition stamp, this is where it ended for sure. So sad to see it go. If you're collecting, I guess that's a good thing. If you're going for everything, you don't have very many sets to collect in first edition, although it will be quite pricey. Like the first edition Charizard, that's a multiple $1,000 card in decent condition. So this set really, the other sets had a couple cards here and there that were getting there, but this set, the last set of the first editions, you'll really notice the weight of the wallet on this one.
This one, so I said like $1,700. I think this set was like $3,000 approximately. Here, let me take a look. Like $1,700 for the 2,500. Yeah, it's about $3,000. Now for me, that's what it ended up costing. Might even be closer to 3,500 by the time I actually buy it. But that includes like near mint to lightly played on a lot of the rares, because a lot of the rares for these cards are like $20, $25 in just like solid condition. That was something I kind of realized as I was buying it. I mean, this set is more expensive than even some modern sets with, $3,500. I mean, this is where it gets really, really, really pricey. And, the next era is where it goes into the stratosphere. That's where it's like you got to have deep pockets in order to collect those sets.
Yep, this is where you're put to the test of how much you want to spend, and thankfully it's the end of the era and the end of our episode this time, but there's a big decision to be made after this set, because the next era only has 3 sets, but has 96 hollows to chase, and very pricey. The price for some of those hollows, granted, they have been known to be pretty good condition. They do get pricey, though, and I can't wait to talk about that era for sure.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say before I mention the first edition thing is like we kind of show how amazing the artwork is, like the dark Pokemon, the light Pokemon. And really comes down to it is I have several potential goals I could do based on like how expensive Lorcana becomes. You know, one thing for sure is if I get an Elsa, I'm getting a Mario and Luigi Pikachu. And the other thing I'd like to do is complete every binder set until we get to the e-reader sets. I'd like to just finish it off. So
Yeah.
that way, everything else I buy, like the core collection, is complete. And it just comes down to how much I end up selling stuff for. But like, I'm prepared to skip the shinings, honestly, because they're so expensive, and then just buy them over like the next 10 years and just be like, that's the only things that I'm missing is the shining cards. Like, oh, I have everything from base to Neo, Destiny, just missing the shinings, just because the price difference is so extreme. It's like you got to focus on what you're trying to buy. And when you have 8 cards with 1,700, $1,800, and they're mostly damaged or like anywhere from like moderately played to damage. I mean, it's frustrating
Yeah.
to say the least. I mean, it's like, do you wait to you get more money and to have a higher income? But then by the time that happens, everybody in the hobby is the same thing, so they increase with everybody with the growth of the hobby. So it's like a catch 22.
Yeah, they'll always be pricey no matter what. But
But
yeah, that's pretty much what I do right now. My binder collection is based through Neo Destiny. I actually have the non-hollow sets complete for the e-reader, which I'll talk
mm-hmm.
more about, but yeah, that's another goal. Like I do want to complete it eventually, but yeah, the problem with those is you don't really find them, so you kind of have to buy them graded in like a 7 or an 8 and then crack them out. So I don't know what I'll do with that yet. Maybe one day I'll just sell the non hollows just so I'm not tempted. But
Well, it's great. It's hard. Like I actually bought, like I mentioned when I went to Yeti, I bought the Mewtwo from one of the e-reader sets. I can't remember which set that came from at the top of my head. But I mean, the artwork is just so amazing. It's just like you kind of have to just like focus on the ones you love more. Honestly, like right now, like I know I'll be able to complete from base to Neo Destiny, no problem. But like with some of the other stuff I want, I don't know if the e-reader sets are on the menu right now, and it's probably going to be more like I'll buy some here and there just to appreciate it. But like I don't have with the crystals in and of itself, especially with the crystal Charizard starting to kind of enter like this whole next level of pricing tier, even in not the best condition. It just kind of adds another element to potentially like the cons that if you want to collect all WotC.
yeah, I just cracked out my PSA 4 Skyridge Charizard to put in my binder.
Woo! Yeah, I know it sold. Was it hit 12,000? I know at one point, and then I saw another thing where it went, like it was selling for even more. I mean, it makes sense. I saw somebody bragging about their CGC10 Charizard. If that gets to market, that's probably going to be a $20,000 card if it gets to market, and it's probably going to be a private sale. To be honest, like I mean, I remember sending you a screenshot because it was made on a Facebook group because they were showing it off, and I was like, "Holy cow!" Even EGC posted on their social media page. It's like, "Hey, CGC10 e-reader or Crystal Zard." I mean, that's pretty crazy. If it ever gets to market, I'm thinking it's a $20,000 card, easy.
Yeah, I remember that. It was quite the news in the hobby too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I guess that pretty much about does it for our gin talk. I think we're just gonna hit a couple questions real quick and wrap it up. But we pretty much we're good on time, so no need to
Yeah, for
stretch it too
once.
much. Well, we're still at an
um,
hour and 40, so
hey,
say we
we're gonna
can.
be under 2 hours, I think, though, because I don't have a game, so.
Yeah, we'll just do the questions real quick and leave it at that.
All
So,
right, what's your question?
mine was basically about the um, shining cards And percentage wise, what do you think would go up more in the next 5 years where the hobby potentially like steadily grows? Do you think that's going to be the Neo Shinings, the crystal cards from our next episode? That's an Era episode, or even beyond that, the gold stars in Gen 3. I see those three things, the Shinings, crystals, and gold stars, as kind of the same caliber of rarity and collectability.
Yeah, because they both have like so. Obviously, you have the first editions with the shinings, but then
Yeah.
you have the overall print run of the e-reader set, so that would affect the crystals with the more difficulty in pulling said crystals than the shinings. And then with the gold stars, you pretty much go even further again on that trajectory, right? So it's
Yeah.
like they each have their reasonings, and if you can make a case for every single one as to why that would be, and you wouldn't be wrong, honestly. I don't know the first edition PSA 9 and 10s for the Shinings off the top of my head. I know it ain't cheap. And same with like the gold stars. I think like the gold star from Mewtwo is like $8,000. And I think, I mean, I'd have to look. It's been a while since I last looked at it. And then the Shining Mewtwo first edition wasn't too far off. Same with like, so like the gold. I mean, it was pretty close. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. The discrepancy wasn't huge. I mean, so it's a really valid question, and it's honestly there's no wrong answer. I think that the Shining artwork for the Mewtwo is okay. I personally like the Gold Star Mewtwo more. That's
Yeah.
just my, but just that's just my opinion on that one. I do enjoy that a lot, and like yeah, they're shining, but you really the artwork on a few of these you really can't see it as well
Yeah.
that they're shining.
I like a lot of the gold stars a little more. Um, but yeah, they're all great cards, and they all have their own little unique tweak to the art style. But yeah, I kind of see them pretty much on even playing field. They're all rare, and yeah, there's way more Neo Shinings, but then they also, like you said, have the first edition variant. So if you count the first edition variant, then it's kind of on a level playing field. So lots of factors for sure.
And I think if you're looking at cards that could potentially rise to like the first edition trio from base set, I think the cards you mentioned are all the ones. And I think the gold stars, the crystals will get pricey, but there's more. The gold stars have a lot of favorites, including the Charizard and Rayquaza.
Yeah.
Um, you obviously have the Crystal Charizard, but I think because of that and how hard it was to pull the Gold Stars, I think the Gold Stars could potentially pull ahead. But that being said, you have Hansy when it comes to the first editions and the Shining. So, I mean, it's really, I would say it'd be really between those two, honestly. I think the e-reader sets are very appreciated, but I think it's going to have your more dedicated collectors that go after it.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, more people want the shinies, but like less people want the crystals, and then even less want the gold stars, it seems like. But as you go in that order, they get rarer and rarer. So like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the gold stars are no doubt rarer in my mind and
Yeah.
underappreciated, but then again, less people want to collect them. And then being so pricey doesn't help
Yeah, that's
either.
another thing. No,
Not a lot of people even get to experience them. So
no, not at all.
So yeah, it's a weird thing to look at. Like the Neo Shinings for sure, probably the most safe bet. Depending how dedicated you are, I feel like to the hobby. Like I think the gold stars are kind of a tier above the average collector, maybe a couple steps. Once you start digging into
Yeah,
those, it's kind of some expensive territory. All of them are expensive, but those in particular, I mean, there's 27 of them to start. I mean, you're talking about 6 crystal cards and what, 10 shining cards, and then you go across to the gold stars across multiple sets, 27 of them. Get pretty ridiculous. So
Yeah, because you got what, the Lugia. Oh wait, no. Yeah.
that's a crystal. Yeah.
Yeah. That one's pretty pricey, I know. But again, there's less. So yeah, in terms of you got like the Lugia, because I mean the Nido King, a lot of people that played. Well, actually, we probably don't want to get too much into that, but like because we don't want to take too much from that episode. But I
Yeah.
think the crystals will be towards the bottom, just because of the Pokemon involved.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll cover that
But
more in our next era episode. So,
yeah.
but yeah, what was your question?
My question is a little bit more of the modern. We kind of talked about it a little bit, and I figure we probably won't figure out much for a little bit as well until we see the leaks. But what are you hoping to see from the Pokemon set 151? Whatever they end up naming it.
Um, it'd be cool if they had, which I think obviously by the name they're gonna have all original 151 Pokemon. It'd be really cool if the Pokemon set number was like the Pokédex number. And then they had a base set like 1 through 151, and number 151 was the Mew card. It'd be cool if they had like kind of like celebrations. Every card was a holo, and you had the 151 Pokemon all as a holo in like a base set. And then you could take from those cards and throw in some trainer cards, but number those, like make them all like trainer galleries, like TG. So like the set is literally 1 through 151, and then you get into like TG trainer cards, and then you can throw in your art rares and secret art rares or special art rares on top of that. The problem is I don't know like which Pokemon they would pick for the art rares. I'm sure
Charizard,
some
you
will
know
be
it.
obvious, some will be left
Yeah.
out. But it'd be cool if there was like a special art rare of all the starters, Pikachu, like the most iconic ones, Eevee and the Evolutions, Mewtwo and Mew, maybe Dragonite. Just the icons. But yeah, for the most part though, I just want like a basic 1 through 151 holo. Like that would look really cool, and then splash in whatever else you want to make the hype crazy. But
So I kind of want to see. So you kind of celebrations there for a little bit. You know how with celebrations you had like the Pikachu, like surfing Pikachu, and a few others that is basically like a reimagining of the artwork, and it was a full art.
yeah,
I wouldn't mind having maybe a little bit of that. Not a complete like one for one, like we're not going to be creative at all, but something that kind of shows inspiration, kind of like with the Charizard Alt Art B, shows inspiration from the card that inspired it, but also being its own thing. I would like to see some of the cards like that as well. I would also like to see something with Ash as well, not red and blue, but Ash.
yeah, that'd be
I don't
cool.
know, like because he's going to be done or he's done now as it would be nice to have like a send off just a little bit from with the TCG. That'd be really really cool. Like maybe have like you said the Kanto starters and have Ash being in the background. Like he's choosing, or even Ash and Gary. Like they're choosing their card. Hell, you can even do Professor Oak. Like like there's a lot of things that you could see. But ultimately, I want to see some homages to potentially some of the earlier eras, which I know people say, well, they've already done evolutions. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but they haven't done like the art rares with the trainer gallery as well. And I would like to kind of see that when it comes to it, because the whole idea with this set is pretty much tugging at the nostalgia heartstrings, right? That's
Yeah,
pretty
pretty
much what's going
much.
on. Because I mean, they're basically okay. So last year we did Pokemon Go. This year we're doing this. It just kind of feels like that's what they're running with, and this is probably going to be the biggest set this year, or one of the biggest sets this year.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be a nice celebration. I mean, there's going to be tons of it. just like Celebrations. But yeah, the set potentially, or has the potential to be so cool that it holds value, because I think even Celebrations now is kind of going up in value just because it's
because
fun to
it's
open,
yep,
and you
and it's
get
a smaller set
you get
too.
some iconic stuff. And but yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be fun to open, and don't know if I'll open any or buy anything from it. Hopefully they have some cool promos, but
I'll probably open a little bit of it. I don't know how much. It'll probably potentially be the first seal product I buy in 2023.
yeah,
Like I don't, because I don't see I bought the V-Star Universe, which was technically like in 2022, so I don't see myself buying anything more until this set, to be completely honest with you. And then I'm sure they'll have a cool special set in around like in the fourth quarter as well. So
yeah, for sure. I guess that about does it though.
yeah, that was a pretty smooth episode. Another era episode. I hope maybe you learned a little bit. We didn't go as much into the history. We kind of did some of the surrounding factors though around it, but mostly we're just trying to like appreciate the artwork and kind of its place within the TCG, and just kind of keep in mind with that context.
Yeah, for sure. But let us know what you guys think. Not sure what the next episode will be, but we will have the next era episode sometime in the near-ish future. So this
Yeah,
we kind of like to space them out. But yeah, next up will be the E-Reader and E-Series. So only 3 sets there, but there's a lot to talk about, a lot of crazy artwork. And yep, can't wait to talk about those. But with that, I guess we'll pretty much end it there, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
yeah, we'll give you an update on what happens at Yeti, or
Yep,
I'll give you an update at least. But yeah, until next time,
yep, for sure. Peace.
have a good one. Peace out.